No, please don't say that.
That's right.
Kiss Me Kate is back next Saturday at the slightly later time of 9:45 here on BBC One. Just a reminder that tonight's film in 15 minutes stars Harrison Ford, the all-action thriller Clear and Present Danger.
This Christmas, BBC One has exclusive coverage of the royal family.
Say bye-bye.
Bye-bye, baby David.
Bye-bye, baby David.
Bye-bye, baby David.
Bye-bye, Debra, baby.
The royal family, Christmas Day at 10:10 on BBC One.
Highwayman hanging.
Succeed against the Dunes and your loyalty will be well rewarded. Fail and join them on the scaffold.
Muskets, murder.
Burn the damn place to the ground. Go on, do it!
Rebellion, revenge.
Dunes murdered my father. Why would I ever hate you?
Because I'm a Dune.
This Christmas, discover a love worth fighting for.
Be careful. The path is treacherous.
Lorna Doone, Christmas Eve at 6:05, concluding Boxing Day on BBC One.
The news now on BBC One with Peter Sissons.
A Yorkshire boxer lies in a coma, but should the fight have been stopped sooner? Paul Ingle is stable after brain surgery, but there are calls to ban head blows. Hague's views on street crime. Tories insist they're in tune with the public. A week before Christmas, and a Belfast hit and run kills a mother and child. And Liverpool put one over on Manchester United at last. Good evening. Doctors in Sheffield are watching over the boxer Paul Ingle tonight, deep in a coma after brain surgery following a fight knockdown. They won't say how long his recovery will take, although he was on the operating table within 45 minutes of hitting the canvas. Ingle was defending his IBF featherweight title against South Africa's Mbulelo Botile at Sheffield Arena.
After Paul Ingle was knocked down in the 11th round, many who watched last night's fight said he should never have been allowed to come out for the 12th. Clearly struggling, he received more battering blows to the head. He seemed okay, but then lost consciousness and needed emergency treatment in the ring. He was immediately taken to hospital for surgery to remove a blood clot on the brain. His manager said they would have thrown in the towel if they felt he'd been at serious risk.
Paul came into the corner, we sat him down, cleaned his face up, as we would do. Steve told him, "You've lost this fight," and Ingle's words was, "I know I've got to stop him in this round." And that was, you know, in that second, he seemed clear and was talking perfect.
There are now very strict rules about safety, with doctors and paramedics at ringside. Importance is attached to the so-called golden hour. If treatment is carried out quickly, the risk of serious injury or death is reduced. Another boxer's career was finished in similar circumstances. After being knocked unconscious, Spencer Oliver's recovery was put down to immediate medical intervention.
Well, it's going to be difficult for Paul Ingle. I mean, the biggest fight he's got now, forget the world titles and stuff, the biggest fight he's got now is in that hospital bed. It's such a serious situation, and the next 48 hours really are crucial to whether Paul lives or dies.
In gyms and training halls around the country, the future of boxing is once more being questioned. The British Medical Association, which has led a vigorous campaign against it, is unequivocal. Boxing damages the brain and should be banned.
The reality is that boxing is the only sport where the intention is to inflict injury, where the most effective injury is brain damage, where if you render your opponent unconscious, then you win. You know, that is completely unique when compared with other sports.
The statistics do not support those calling for a ban. Sports like horse riding are more dangerous than boxing. Last year, 5 people died in 3-day eventing, while 3 boxers have died in Britain in the past 6 years as a result of injuries.
Whenever you've got a contact sport, whatever the sport, and at the moment boxing's under the microscope as we realise, but any contact sport, you're going to get these sort of accidents. They're very rare. They're not very common in boxing. The number of contests that take place over the many years, we've had very few.
But it is the moral argument that boxing finds most difficult to counter. defending a sport where the objective is to hit and knock out an opponent. Adam Minot, BBC News.
Downing Street has strongly criticised the Conservative leader William Hague after he stepped up his attack on the government's record on law and order. Writing in a Sunday newspaper, Mr Hague suggested there was a direct link between the murder of 10-year-old Damilola Taylor and falling police numbers. Tony Blair's official spokesman called the remarks increasingly desperate.
Tonight, police officers were out patrolling the Peckham estate where Damilola Taylor was killed. Undaunted by the storm of protests which greeted his speech last week, blaming a Liberal elite for the decline in police morale, an unrepentant Mr Hague today linked the murder to falling police numbers and asked of the Home Secretary Jack Straw where was he when the regular foot patrols were being scaled down because of a shortage of police officers. Britain's leading black trade unionist has condemned Mr Hague's views.
I see Mr Hague's speech as akin to the speech that was made by Enoch Powell, warning of rivers of blood, that did immense damage to race relations then. And I suspect that Mr Hague's speech has got exactly the same potential for doing immense damage to race relations now.
The Tories say this is not about race, but about William Hague standing up for people concerned about rising crime, fewer policemen and officers who are unfairly branded as racists in the wake of the Macpherson report.
Anybody who is trying to make this into an issue about race, trying to call us racist or trying to say we're playing the race card, is actually diminishing the level of political debate and indeed free speech and democracy in this country.
The government is sensitive about what they admit has been a drop in police numbers since 1993. The Metropolitan Police now say they were understaffed in Peckham when Damilola Taylor was killed. Labour accused Mr Hague of undermining officers.
There is a great danger that William Hague going on about all this again may actually harm the recruitment of people into the Metropolitan Police.
But the residents' leader on the estate is unimpressed by Labour. His letters to cabinet ministers went unanswered until after the murder.
Mr Hague is correct in raising the issue of lack of police officers contributing to the death of Damilola. I'm almost certain that that is the case. It's because there was a lack of police officers in this particular area at the time that Damilola was killed.
While senior Tories broadly back Mr Hague's approach, there are those who fear that returning to the thorny issue of race and policing twice in 1 week could be a strategic error. Laura Trevelyan, BBC News, Peckham.
10 people have died in a series of skiing accidents in the Italian Alps north of Milan. Police said icy weather appeared to be responsible for the accidents, several of which involved people slipping off mountain paths. In one incident, 4 people are reported to have died after they tried to rescue a dog which had fallen down a slope. The American President-elect George W. Bush has named Condoleezza Rice as his national security advisor, the second American African to be selected for the new White House team. Communications Director Karen Hughes and the Texas Supreme Court Judge Al Gonzalez will also have jobs in the new administration. A series of tornadoes has caused devastation across parts of the southern United States. At least 12 people have been killed in Alabama, where thousands of homes have been damaged and power lines cut. Heavy snowstorms have also caused chaos across the American Midwest. Prospects for new Middle East peace talks increased today, despite the deaths of 3 more Palestinians in the West Bank and Gaza Strip. Israeli and Palestinian negotiators will hold separate talks with US officials in Washington this week, and it's hoped the discussions could soon lead to direct peace talks between the two sides. A mother and her young son have been killed by a hit-and-run driver as they were crossing a road in Belfast. Police are questioning 3 young men. Ministers are expected to announce much tougher penalties for dangerous driving within a few days.
Today in Belfast, a family is mourning a mother and son, killed when they were hit by a stolen car. Dana Fitzpatrick and her young son Kevin were crossing the road last night when the accident happened.
A week before Christmas, 28-year-old woman and a 9-year-old lad didn't deserve to happen to them. Dana would have went out of her way for anyone. She'd have put anyone before herself.
Thousands of other people know this family's grief because they too have been bereaved. The government's now so concerned about deaths on the roads that it's decided to act. This week, tough new measures are expected to be revealed to tackle dangerous driving. They could include more drivers being disqualified, lifetime bans, and confiscating cars of drivers who've lost their licence.
We need to tackle dangerous drivers, persistent offenders, persistent drink drivers. But we mustn't offend the ordinary motorist by having too high penalties for offences like speeding, where enforcement is increasing daily.
But Brigitte Chowdhury campaigns for even minor traffic offences to be taken more seriously. Her son died after being hit by a car driven through a red light.
We would like proper enforcement so that drivers who behave dangerously and irresponsibly on the road are being warned before they have had the chance to kill either themselves or others.
When the details are known in a couple of days, they could be controversial, and they'll be the subject of further consultation. So it could be some time before any of the new proposals become law. Christine Stewart, BBC News.
Detectives investigating the murder of the schoolgirl Sarah Payne are looking at aerial photographs of West Sussex, which they believe could hold vital clues to her killer. It's hoped the pictures show what vehicles were using country roads close to where the 8-year-old was playing in the hour before she was abducted. Breathe.com, Britain's fourth biggest internet service provider, has collapsed, with losses reported at £50 million. The company has more than 500,000 customers. The administrators, PricewaterhouseCoopers, said the business would continue to operate while they tried to find a buyer. Now, with news of a rare home defeat for Manchester United, the day Liverpool fans have been waiting for, and all the rest of the sport. Here's Matt Smith.
Thank you very much, Peter. Well, the Premiership title race may not be wide open, but it is open again after Liverpool's 1-0 win at Old Trafford. They hadn't won there for 10 years, while Manchester United hadn't lost a league game at home for quite some time.
Manchester United had not been beaten in the league at Old Trafford for nearly 2 years. But they were facing a well-organised Liverpool side who allowed them just one early effort on goal, Roy Keane's header posing few problems. Liverpool grew in confidence and only Paul Scholes' goal line clearance prevented Emil Heskey from giving them the lead. The turning point came a minute later. It followed a harmless long ball deep into the United half, which Gary Neville inexplicably handled. And from the resulting free kick, Danny Murphy punished Neville's error to the full with a superb strike. They were fortunate not to fall further behind moments into the second half, Michael Owen coming within inches of making the game safe. United fought hard to preserve their record, Sander Westerveld denying Solskjaer. But in pressing forward, they were always vulnerable to a swift counter-attack. Too swift, in fact, for substitute Luke Chadwick, who was sent off for hauling down Vladimir Smicha. Liverpool hung on to end United's dominance and record their first Old Trafford win for 10 years. Rob Watson, BBC News.
Meanwhile, Blackburn came out on top in Division 1's East Lancashire derby, beating Burnley 2-0 at Turf Moor. Marcus Bent wrapped things up for the visitors in injury time. Earlier, Birmingham beat Wolves 1-0 to go third. Rangers' hopes of catching Celtic at the top of the Scottish Premier League suffered a major blow this evening, as they could only draw 1-1 with bottom club Dundee United. Rangers dominated the first half and took the lead after 18 minutes with a great strike from Claudio Reyna. But they didn't hold on to it for long. Just after the half hour, a terrible defensive error by Lorenzo Amoruso allowed Derek Lilly to equalise. Rangers are 5 points behind Hibs and 12 behind Celtic. The look on manager Dick Advocat's face at the final whistle said it all. Britain's swimmers have won 2 golds at the European Short Course Championships in Valencia. Joanna Fargus won the 200 metres backstroke, while Mark Foster took gold in the 50 metres butterfly. After a medal-free Olympics in the pool, Britain ended these championships with 19, finishing 6th overall. Racing and a traumatic season for Frankie Dettori has ended on a high note as he won the £630,000 Hong Kong Cup on fantastic light. Dettori missed much of the British season after breaking his ankle in a plane crash in June. And Sven-Goran Eriksson could be joining England sooner rather than later as his Lazio side lost the Rome derby 1-0 tonight. That's the sport. Peter.
And that's the latest. There's news throughout the night over on BBC News 24, but from the 10 o'clock news team, from Matt and me, good night.
Good evening. Well, there is rain on the way for the next couple of days. We've had one band of rain edging its way across western areas during this afternoon, and it is making very slow progress eastwards. Much of this rain is fairly light, and some of it is falling as sleet and snow across the higher ground to the north. It's not surprising because it's meeting colder air there. Aberdeen, for example, is on -2 at the moment, so too Coltishore. But as you head back out to the west, in that rain, temperatures are far higher, +5 for Glasgow, Cardiff and Belfast just at the moment. But as that weather front continues to push its way in and meets the cold air, it will produce sleet and snow across southern Scotland and northern England in particular. We could see some sleet further south as well. That may linger well into the rush hour tomorrow morning, causing a few problems. Out to the west, as that weather front moves through, it will turn drier and clearer, and so temperatures here will dip down, so Belfast could end up around +1 by the end of the night. But for many areas, setting those temperatures rising, probably around +2 to +6 by the time we get through to the early hours of the morning. So Monday morning then, starting off pretty grey and overcast, with it that band of cloud, rain, sleet and snow. That will gradually move away during the morning, and then I think the best of the brightest weather will be in the south and the west. We will see some more persistent rain coming into the far northwest during the afternoon, and there could be some showery rain into the southeast. It will be a milder day, temps around 6 to 9 degrees. That's all from me for now. Bye-bye.